What is going on, my Masketeers? Welcome back to another episode, and we are here to talk about 3,000 Years of Longing, a film starring Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton. To be honest with you, going in, I didn't know anything about this film, but the premise is this. Tilda Swinton is a British scholar who studies stories throughout the world and history, and she has a trip to Istanbul where she's meant to be giving a conference about how the stories of old relate to the science and discoveries of now, and essentially how stories have evolved over time, and it was a way for primitive humans to try and make sense of the world. So she goes to the conference, and then she decides to pick up a souvenir in one of these gift shops, and she lands upon a glass bottle. She's drawn to it, she thinks it's quite fascinating, so she takes it. Then she's at her hotel room and she's trying to clean it, but it was a little bit weird because she went and used her toothbrush. I don't know nobody, and I mean nobody, that's going to use their actual toothbrush to clean a bowl. That was a bit weird, but she does it, and then she ends up unleashing the djinn, which is Idris Elba, and he's been trapped in there for a very, very, very long time. And he gives her a proposition. He offers her 3 wishes for his freedom because she is a scholar and she's literally studied mythology and stories throughout time. She's quite clued up in the sense of whenever you make wishes, it never goes good. So we're not talking about that whole Disney Aladdin situation where the genie was like a good, lovable Robin Williams out here busting a little 2-step, doing some musical numbers, and we will not talk about the live action with Will Smith. That shit does not count. I don't know what that was. We're talking about old school Aladdin, Robin Williams, the classic. Yes, he's not that kind of djinn. But I should say that Idris definitely is a better djinn than Will Smith was. The whole vibe that Idris has, and even how the djinn are, I liked it. He essentially is trying to convince her that he is a good djinn and he's not a trickster. He decides to tell her his life story and how he ended up in the bottle in the first place. And once she's heard his story, then hopefully he can convince her to make the 3 wishes. That way he can win his freedom and finally no longer be tied to the bottle. So which he does, and each story is basically more fantastic than the last. And let me just say this, because his origin is linked to Sheba, the biblical Sheba. Yo, the actress that played Sheba, magnificent. I'm saying this now, and when I get to the good, I'm gonna bring it back again. But she was magnificent. So he tells her his story, and there's 3 key women that play a part in his tale. After that, she decides to make a wish, and the wish that she makes is something that you wouldn't really expect, because I definitely didn't expect it, and I don't even think the djinn himself expected it. And that's really it, without giving too much of the story away. So let's get into the good. I would say visually, this movie is something. I'll say it's a piece of art, because there's a scene when he first gets unleashed out of the bottle and he's kind of like a giant within the room. I thought that part was kind of weak. It didn't look good. In the VFX department, it looked rushed. I felt that they should have taken a bit more time to make that part look a bit better. But besides that, everything afterwards, especially when he's giving the stories about his past, it's so vibrant. It has a very unique look to it. But the highlight for me has to be his origin with Sheba. My God, the entire visual spectacle just looked crazy. And like I said, the actress that played Sheba, oh my God. Oh, she was heavenly. Black excellent. Black girl magic. Literally, she was magic, because supposedly Sheba was half succubus or half jinn. The only mad thing is, like, she had these crazy hairy legs, which is meant to be a thing that half breeds have. They're not immortal like their jinn parent, but they somehow retain some magical properties, and they have just mad hair on their legs. I mean, literally, if you wanted to start a weave company, hit up some half jinn, because their legs, they got that serious hair. Straight Cambodian, straight everything, wavy. And I would say that the acting was good as well. The acting was really good. I liked how each place, basically, because he tells 3 separate stories, each point in time felt very different from the other, and even visually it looked somewhat different in a sense, which I really like. I also like a lot of the world building which they did within the movie. They don't do a lot of world building, but they do enough to where it makes a lot of things very interesting, and also I thought it gave the past somewhat of a magical element to it. So I thought that was really good. Let's get to the bad. The bad for me, I would say that I felt the last part of the film, so the third act, I felt was kind of rushed. I think from the moment she makes her wish, it kind of loses a bit of its momentum. And I don't know, I felt it was a little bit hollow towards the end. Maybe because they had spent so much time focusing on his story that when it finally came to her wish, they didn't have enough time. Whereas I also felt that that wish that she made, that element anyway, I don't think it fit the movie too well. I think that that kind of detracted for me from the movie. That was my only big negative, if I'm being honest. It's just the third act I felt was a little bit flat. It was riding a very good way from the first and the second, but then on the third act, it just kind of dropped the ball a little bit. With that being said, my verdict, I will give 3,000 Years of Longing, I would give it an 8 out of 10 because it's very cool. It's a love story, just done in a very new, unique way. And I think it's a testament to a good artist. For me, I feel like it's a great piece of art. They've taken an age-old concept, love and a love story, but then they've woven magical elements into it, which I feel worked quite well. For me, my only thing which I would change would be the essential structure of the film. I felt that the film should have been, because she's a scholar and she's based her entire life around stories, I felt the movie should have basically been the jinn giving her the greatest story that she's ever heard, because he had the first person perspective on certain events in history. So I felt that the deal would have been that he gives her the greatest story ever recorded, and then in turn he gets his freedom. I thought that would have been a better story for me, and then you can weave in the notions of love and how the constant theme throughout his story is always him loving and falling in love and it not going right throughout the movie. I thought that would have made it quite good. That's my opinion. But all in all, I liked the film. Yeah, those were my thoughts on it. Please let me know what you thought. Sound off in the comments. And like always, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you at the next masquerade. Peace. Never chase a bitch.